Hello everyone, and welcome back to The Legend of Zelda Solar Shadows. If you are new here, welcome. This video is a part 2, and I will not be recovering topics I've already explained in the last video. So, do go watch that. In today's video, I will be going over how items work, and the way the map progresses, what enemies I'd include, and the inventory system. Before we jump right in, I'd simply like to ask for your subscription, as it allows me to reach more audiences and share my ideas with more people. And I'd also like to ask if you could please keep the comments up, as I really like interacting with the community. But anyways, let's jump right in. First, let's talk about the way items will be handled within this new style. As I elaborated in the last episode, there will not be just one link, but rather two, which will lead to some interesting uses of seemingly simple items. Similar to the movement and puzzles, I will be splitting the items up into categories, including grey, dark, and light items. Grey items, similar to the tiles, are our universal standard and can be used by any of the links. Light items, much akin to light tiles, may be used by Light Link alone. And surprise surprise, dark items are only items Dark Link can use. Who would have thought? If an item is a grey item and you are split into both Light and Dark Link, both links will be able to use the item simultaneously, meaning items such as the musical instrument may be used by two links at the exact same time. This means the creators would have plenty of room to find fun and interesting ways to make good uses of these items. Something I would also like in this Zelda experience would be that the map would not be stagnant. What do I mean by this? Well, I mean that with story progression becomes map progressions, and certain points of the map are limited by what items you have at the time. This would mean players would have an incentive to explore the map before it turns into a different version, locking some areas and unlocking others. For example, let's say that the bomb is an unlockable item in this game and is found inside of a dungeon. Certain caves would not be accessible until the bombs are unlocked, allowing for the player to make a mental map of where they need to go once they unlock a certain item. Furthermore, as the story progresses, so too will the characters and the environment. Say that during the story, Hyrule Castle goes from a safe haven to a monster's sanctuary. This would mean that the previous iteration of Hyrule Castle is no longer available. However, certain loot chests may still be obtainable depending on the layout. However, due to the fact that it is now a monster's safe place, it has become your nightmare. Another thing this attack on the capital would introduce is the ideas of NPCs changing their dialogue, movement patterns, and even their shop inventory. This would allow the world to feel more alive, which I believe is a problem found in the Wild era, as I feel story events do not lead to overly important outcomes for the world and its inhabitants, apart from the regional phenomena quest in Tears of the Kingdom. So, in order to make this game and its world more immersive, I'd like to add these changes to make it feel like the story has the weight and consequences it deserves. Speaking of monster attacks, what would these monsters be? I believe no Zelda experience is complete without a core, strong set of monsters, and I look to bring back classics while also allowing new monsters to shine. Naturally, we cannot have a Zelda game without the Bokoblin, who is a staple of the series. These monsters would act the exact same way as they do in the Wild era, being that they are slightly more sophisticated than the other iterations in the fact that they have small little groups, they sleep, and they just socialise, while still being monsters in the essence that they attack you upon sight. Of course, with the inclusion of the Bokoblin, we cannot forget about the Moblins and Lizalfos. Moblins are basically Bokoblins but bigger and more dangerous. Lizalfos are faster and more chaotic than Bokoblins, but have slightly smaller health pools. Naturally, we have to include some other classics, such as the Keese, Choo-Choos, and Octorok. However, these enemies are relatively insignificant in terms of the grander monsters. As for some originals, I'd mainly like to introduce some stronger flying enemies, more threatening overworld bosses, and a mechanical monstrosity of some kind. Something else I'd like as an enemy would be story-related creatures, similar to the shadow beasts from Twilight Princess. These creatures are not native to Hyrule and are quite dangerous, as well as being interesting to both the player and NPCs in the story. In my story, I would like to have it so these creatures are able to freely roam Hyrule. However, NPCs will have different reactions if they be attacked by these monsters when compared to other monsters, and will refer to them as more alien-like than the rest. This is another way to introduce more dynamic storytelling than just, this is what happened. Because let's face it, world building is so much better than getting the story told to you through memories. Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, take notes. Another thing that I think the Wild era can improve on was the inventory system. In Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, you could carry an unlimited amount of raw ingredients that could be used for healing as well. This, however, created quite a bit of time spent in menus, which, let's be real, is not why we play games. In Echoes of Wisdom, if you don't count the actual echoing feature, the notorious inventory problems are almost fixed, as well as the infinite heal inside of menu problem is almost fixed as well. In Echoes of Wisdom, the amount of food items you can carry is very limited, and they take out the same amount of slots that are being taken up by potions. This sort of an inventory system is a lot better. However, I know one more thing that can make it top-notch: a heal button. This button would simply pull one of your healing items straight from your menu and put it in your hand, allowing you to heal, as you will no longer be able to heal inside of menus. However, apart from this absurd healing problem and arrow fusing, Tears of the Kingdom actually had a very good inventory system, so I wouldn't change much about that. Why fix what isn't broken? This, however, marks the end of our time together. I really enjoy making these kinds of videos, so I believe I owe you, and myself, a story video. The next video I publish on this particular subject will be an introduction to the story, and you will experience it alongside Link and whoever else decides to tag along. Thank you for engaging with me along this journey, and I will make sure to not die for too long this time. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, as well as turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads or posts. As sad as it is, I must go now. Bye!